Welcome back to Cyber the Key. This is episode 1 of our Simple BGP series. If you are new to BGP or if you want to refresh your knowledge, this is the right place to start. Today, we're going to look at BGP actually is what is not. What is BGP and what is not. Then we will jump to a lab to build point-to-point BGP connection. So I have here two routers. This one is ISP, this one is R1. So we will form a neighbor today before we end this call, and I will walk through the basics and how, what are the things important and how, and right. So it might be a slow video. Hopefully you will bear with me and you can watch me faster speed eventually, when you're watching this. So what we need to know is that BGP is it's not an OSPF or it's not an eIGRP where its works depend on the what you call the speed, right? So the what BGP wants is that it's not care about the speed, which how fast it can reach the network. It's like a postal system, right? Example, let's say this one is a American or US postal. This one is Singapore postal or any country. So when the postal goes between two destinations, it might go through different. Maybe it come to UK, then it come to maybe another UAE. So the postal is going from here, then go here, then come here, right? So some kind of a scenario. So here, what it cares is that it doesn't care how fast it reach, as long as it's reached the destination, right? So that's how it works. So the reachability, then the policy. So they may have policies like, okay, for this parcel or this postal, we don't want to go UK, you just go straight away to Singapore because it's maybe high priority, it's need to go faster, right? So something similar to that. So coming back again, so the foundation of BGP is their reachability is and policy base, right? So this is why we used to connect company and ISPs. We don't want fast path, we want correct paths to follow our business rules. And now, before we configure here, there is one rule, remember forever. Your neighbor's AS number determine your relationship. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is, if BGP works as an autonomous system, which is called AS. So this router should have an AS, and this router should have an AS. So in our lab, I will use 200 as for ISP, and 100 for ISP, 200 for our company, also called router for us. But in the real world, there is a number. We will get into that in a different course or different video. If because of the AS is different number from this and this, they will become E or eBGP. But if there is another router and it is also 200, if it is connected to this, the relationship become iBGP. So what it means is that this is external, this is internal. That's what it means. And we will cover iBGP in episode 2, not in this lab. So next week I will post the next week, most likely no, maybe following week I will post one video because I'll be busy outside. So I won't be able to do any video next week for information. Then so that is a foundation, one of the foundation thing you need to remember. Yes, BGP is a policy, reachability and policy-based policy. That is the focus is that. Then they use these AS numbers to define what is the relationship between their neighbors. Is it external BGP relationship or internal BGP relationship? Lab we're gonna do. We're gonna configure AS numbers, IP address, and then we will do the configuration and see how the neighborship forms. Let me start the console of each. Okay, I just configure the host name for ISP and this one. So let's start configure this configuration and build our lab and form the neighbor relationship between the two BGP routers. Okay, so let's start with ISP router. So let's configure IP address, interface gig 0/0, IP address 10.10.10.1, 255.255.252, show, and then interface opens 0 0. IP address 1.1, mask is 255.255.255.2 255. It's done, and let's configure the BGP as well. So router BGP 100. And one thing to note here, if I try to create a new AS number, it will not allow. So one AS for one router. So that is the concept. You need to remember that. Now, so we have done iterating. Let's do what do you call neighbor paper relationship. So I need to give my neighbor's IP .2 remote AS is 200 and give something called update source /0. So okay, this command, what it does is that this is where the neighborhood relationship will be started to work, and this one it will help to tell the BGP that okay, for this neighbor you use this interface, because we have two interface, this one and the loopback and the physical interface. So we don't want it to look from a different or wrong port or wrong society. So that's why we keep that. So again, we are trying only point to point. So there is something called you need to give like a TTL if it's an external BGP, but we will come to that in eventually in a different kind of an advanced video when we reach that level. So now we are doing the basic BGP of the basic of the BGPs. So this is done, or before we check router one, we go and here we're going to save manually and show IP BGPs BGP summary. So what's happening here is that we have our neighbor IP and this neighbor AS. We don't have any formation, or no, never, we never form a neighbor before, so it's never. Here if you see active, so this BGP stat has a few stat with idle, active, I think open, send, open, confirm, and establish. So we are in a second stage of a state, which means we already configured it past the idle state. Now it's trying to form a neighbors relationship with a neighbor, but it doesn't get the TCP 179 connectivity. So BGP use TCP IP 179 to establish an exchange route. So at the moment, it's not able to get enough. Most likely it's talking to router 2, but it doesn't get the 179 TCP port open on the router 1. That's what it means. Let's quickly configure here. Interface gig 0/0 IP address is 10.1. Window number 1, 2, 255.255.252. Exit and interface loopback 0. IP address is and 255 and exit. And again, router BGP 200. Neighbor is neighbor 3.1. Remote address is 100. And we do this update source. So it's the same gig 0/0. And we can see they are already up. They say there's a neighbor updations is up. That's the good news. So right, so if you see here, it's from active to establish. So I mean, we don't see the establish, but it's now showing prefix 0. So what is prefix or prefix record RCD? It means there is no any. I mean, we are neighbors, but we are not exchanging any route information to reach where. So what I'll do is I'm gonna do here. Before that, let me show you something. So we know we have two interfaces. One is loopback and one is local. So we can reach these two. That's why it was established the neighbor relationship between this one. And now we try to see if from this router or maybe from this interface, default interface, can we reach this IP. So that's what we're trying to do now. Okay. So ping 2.1.2. No reply at all. And if we do IP route BGP, I think we don't have no routes. Quickly, we go to config T, router BGP 200 network and mask and 255. So one thing, if you see, we are using mask, not a wildcard. So usually, if we are configuring routing, IGP like OSPF or IGRP, we're using mask. We will discuss why we are using exact subnet and all this, in advance when we still building the basic knowledge. So I don't want to stress too much on this. So so we're done already here, configuration. And now if I go now, BGP, you can see here, it's here. Before we don't see anything, now they're exchanging 20 seconds ago. If you go to summary, this will become 1. I think previously it is to 0. Now we have 1. And if you go back to ping, you get a reply. But the reply you will be getting from the default interface, but if you change the source interface to 111, you won't get it. Because the router 2, or this router don't know, this router or maybe don't know how to reach this unless we add into BGP network of ISP1 is to share with the other one. Let's try that also. 150 router BGP 100 network 1 mask 255 255 255 255. Let's see BGP router. It's set up router ID as well. Just to set up router, but it's not necessary. I'm just making this one as a router ID, configure memory. Okay. Yeah, now it's reaching. So if you go here, you will see this routing information as well. Show IP. Okay, we can see 1 BGP via this IP. So we have done our first lab. And we already saw when neighbors are formed. We understand the BGP has a two type of BGPs. One is internal BGP, one is iBGP. If the AS numbers are same between the two routers, they become iBGP. This lab we will do it in another second episode. The first episode we are only doing iBGP BGP, meaning two different AS. When they form an iBGP. Sorry, eBGP. So this is what we tested, and I hope this video is informative and it gives you motivation to learn more about BGP. And please don't forget to subscribe and follow the lab. If you have any question on the lab, please reach me out via comments or my Twitter account. And thank you and have a nice day.